Hey tubers, welcome back for another adventure. So I bought this cart on Sunday for $100. And normally one of the first things I do some internet research to figure out what it is. Does it have any real value? Are parts available? You know, all the typical stuff. And I gotta tell you, it was an interesting piece of work. Normally, I start by trying to find out what year it is, but there are no tags on it. There's nothing that says it was manufactured by anybody or anything like that. So, normally after that, the wise thing to do is kind of take a look at the engine and see what it is. The engine is known as it's a Kohler K91, and these were made from 1958-59 into the early 80s when they started to become aluminum and cheap. So what I did is I ran the tags on it, right? I just want to make sure I'm showing you the serial number. There you go. And the rest of it. So I ran those tags and I really couldn't find anything of any value other than this kind of carburetor with the barb fitting here. Kind of came into vogue in the mid-70s, somewhere around 1975. So other than that, other than the carburetor change, I really couldn't find anything. So the next thing I did is I looked at the starter generator set here, and I actually found out quite a bit from that. First of all, it has a blue tag which indicates 12 volts. I think orange means 24 and black means 6. So the blue tag means 12 volts, so that's one thing I learned. The other thing I learned is, could you see this 5C12? Well, the 5 means it's in the 5th year of the decade. Doesn't say what decade, but 5th year of the decade. C means January, February, March, so March is C. And the 12 means it was built on the 12th day of March, and I think 1975. So this rig is probably made in 1975. I then went through all the other explorations. Is it a Cushman or something else? So, trying to figure out, is it a Cushman or not? What you're looking at is a 1946 Cushman Minute Miser. This is an electric cart, and I was able to get the date code off the engine, off the motor, off the electric motor. You can see it has a Springer front end, but you can see it uses compression of the springs to take shock, so to speak. The back uses the same motor in a cradle type thing, axle in a cradle with a couple of springs. So this thing too has a Springer front end, but you see, like when you hit a bump, it actually stretches the spring. The Cushman compresses it. See how this is kind of made out of plate metal, so to speak, where the Cushman's more of a pipe metal type thing. So we kind of know it's a 75, and from the front end and the rest of it, I'm not thinking it's a Cushman. I couldn't find any pictures of a Cushman that looks at it. Cushmans are just better built. This is kind of more of a mass produced type thing. So given that it wasn't a Cushman, I looked at some other things that were made back in that day. Carl Heald made some of these type things. It's not one of his. Hester made an ag truck. Hester makes a lot of farm equipment. It's not his. I looked at some of the mini bike manufacturers to see if they had any three-wheelers out there, and it doesn't seem to be any of theirs. So I'm not thinking there's a lot of these out there, but it makes it pretty hard to figure out, is it valuable or not, if you can't find anybody else who has one, built one, or anything like that. I think in the day it was probably a two-seater. I think the seat was wider than what you're seeing right there. And now, and the reason why is you could kind of drive it. Like, that's the brake, supposedly, and that's the gas, supposedly, right? So I'm thinking in the day you could drive it from either side, right? It's got a tiller on it, so you could kind of steer it from either side. And basically what I want to ask the audience is if anybody's seen anything like this. It's got the Kohler K91 engine on it. I talked about that. You can see it's torque converter driven. The other side of the torque converter goes directly into an axle. I wish it had reverse. It does not. It only goes forward. Kind of a shame. It would have been much more useful with reverse. So what am I going to do with it? What is the plan? As usual, the plan is I only have $100 tied up and it doesn't seem to be valuable in any way. I want to get it running. I'll take it out for a ride and I'll make some decisions from there. My lean off the top of my head, I would like to get it back to a bench seat so two people could sit on it. I would also like to kind of set the back of it up as a table. That's not a bad height, right, to put things on. I think, I don't know what the gear ratio on the rear axle is, but I think it's probably geared fairly low. I can't picture getting this thing winging along at 30 or 35 and being able to stay on it. I imagine it would be doing all kinds of scraping and all underneath here. Well, there's some holes under there. Maybe they did scrape it when they brought it into a turn, got it up on two wheels, ready to flip over. But I'm hoping it's geared low enough where you could put stuff on the back, put a trailer hitch on it, and drag some stuff around. Anyway, the first thing to do, you always want to check to make sure you're not locked, and that appears that it is not. So I'm going to pull the plug, make sure the engine turns round and round, then we'll put a battery into it and go forward, right? Let's see if we can't get this puppy started. So the plug is out, and you want to go around twice with these 4 strokes to make sure none of the valves are hanging up, right? So it doesn't appear as if anything bad is going on. And let me move right, and I kind of took a shortcut here, and I put a battery into it, and let's see what. So it turns around. Once again, no bad sounds. That's all great. Let me put this spark plug back on and see if we can't get a spark out of it. We have the plug hooked up. Let's see if we get a spark. I'm not seeing a spark. Are you guys seeing a spark? Boy, that engine That engine has some bad breath, man. Man, that stinks. You know what? Let's do a quick compression test on it. I'm not sure what a K91 should have. If one of you guys could send that to me for a compression, but you know what? Just for a laugh, let's do a compression test. So let's do a quick compression test. Remember, make sure your choke's open and make sure your throttle is wide open. If you don't do that, you may get more or less compression than you think. So it looks like it's a little over 90 psi. Considering this engine hasn't been started forever, I'm thinking that's really pretty good. If I probably shot a little oil in there, it would easily go up to 120. It would also make sure the valves sealed just a slightly bit better. So I'm thinking it should be able to start, but we really have no spark here. So okay, last time we worked on this Kohler engine, we discovered that it had no spark. So I'm looking at taking it out, and I'm trying to figure out if there's an easier way. And if you guys could kind of see this little box here with this little button, that's where the points are. And I just kind of, this button, you push it in to shut the engine down. So I kind of mess with that a little bit. Then I don't know if you guys could see. So it looks like I have spark now. Let's see if I can't give it a hoot of starting fluid and a little gas. Maybe it'll start. Before we start this thing, let's check the oil quick. Boy, that looks good. I like that. The way I'm going to start this is going to be a touch dangerous. Let me set up the camera, but we're going for it. This is how I'm going to start it. Right. I'm going to spray some of this on a rag, stick it over the air cleaner, and give it a shot. Once again, do not try this at home. So we got it running, but once again, do not try that at home. If the thing backfires at all, you have a rag soaked in starting fluid that you're hanging on to. And let me give you a hint what's going to happen to your hand. The word burned comes to mind. Anyway, that was really a really sleazy way to get this thing started. But I want to thank you all for dropping by to watch and comment and subscribe. Please remember to keep your feet down, your heads up, and get out and enjoy each and every day. Bye now.